Hey guys, we're doing a different kind of video today, but it will still be about art, so stay tuned for what we have in store. And get your tea so we can sip on it as well. Okay guys, hi. So, like I said in the beginning of this video, we are doing something a little bit different, if you can tell from the title of this video. I wanted to upload, but I didn't really necessarily have an idea to draw, and the other ideas that I have are already up for series that I am currently doing. But the thing is, I need to do art in between. Like, I need to do different art videos in between those series of videos, because then they come too close together, and then I won't be able to space them out as much. So I wanted to, do this video. But hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Wolf with a Pencil, but as you know, you can call me Wolf for short. And today we're going to be talking about art, and in particular doing art in college, as I've technically finished college now, officially, and it's quite sad since I wasn't able to say goodbye to my friends or anything like that. I'm not taking another course. Some of my friends are like, maybe they might take another course in college for something different. I'm not even going to university, and that is my decision, and we will get onto those kind of subjects soon. But if you don't know who I am and you are new to this channel, hi, my name is Wolf. I do art on this channel. If you want to know more about my channel, you can go ahead to my channel page, and there should be a trailer up there called Welcome to My Channel Part 2, as it was the second time I created a Welcome to My Channel video, since my content has basically changed within the last 3 years of me doing this. And if you don't want to go there, I'll leave a card up here for you. Here or here, I can't remember, but it will be up there. But if this is not the type of video you're looking for now, then please do go ahead on my channel and look at some of my other videos, because there is art included in those videos. These are just one of the very few videos I have that I'm not drawing in, which I like to try and include drawing in as much as possible with any subject that I'm doing, but I really didn't feel like I wanted to draw today, but I didn't know what to draw, and then I didn't feel like drawing afterwards. So yeah. It is currently 3:20 in the morning, because as you know, I film and edit late. Gosh, I don't know how I can still be awake during the day. But yes, so we're going to be talking about art in college, and if you're thinking about taking art in college, the things that you need to know, maybe a few pet peeves, just random stuff talking about art in college and just the arts in general. So for those of you who don't know, I did my art course was called a National Extended Diploma in BTEC Art and Design, Level 3. Now there are different levels to art. Also, yes, I did BTEC, but for those of you who aren't fully educated on BTEC or A level, basically BTEC is on the same level as A levels, but that's not what they want to tell you in secondary school or high school, wherever you go to, wherever you are in the world, because I know the educational system is different in different countries, but in the UK for us, we are told that we should basically aim to take A levels, depending on what kind of subjects you're doing. If you're doing like maths and English and sociology and stuff like that, that schools would recommend you to aim for A-level grades. And that's because certain universities and stuff after college or whatever, certain places like Oxford and Cambridge, they only necessarily accept people. No, they only accept people who do A levels. So yeah, that's one thing. But BTEC and A levels are on the same level. But with BTEC, you have level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 1 is like, I don't know, before GCSEs. Level 2 is like after GCSEs. Level 3 is A level standard, and I did BTEC level 3, year 1 and year 2. I just finished my year 2 course, and I think I think my class is doing a Zoom call to like for not necessarily graduation, because we don't do graduation for college. It's more so university, but it's more like an end of year thing. Since we didn't get to say goodbye to each other while, we was in quarantine. Obviously, we didn't think it was going to end so abruptly. But yes, so that is my course, and I did do arts GCSE. I've been doing art all my life, and I know it's something I wanted to continue with throughout school, and I took it very seriously. So I did do art for GCSE as well. So I kind of knew the basics of everything of what I was getting into. Now with college, I did pass with art, by the way, but like with college, it's a similar format to art GCSE, but a bit more complicated, and there's a lot more that needs to go on with BTEC art, with whatever level it is, or A level art, which they're basically the same thing at this point. My course basically it was very similar for me. I'm not sure of any other colleges, but my college, it was very similar for me in context of what we was doing from GCSEs to BTEC. It was just that the deadlines and the briefs that we got went on for longer periods of time, whereas we would probably look up a artist, research that artist, and do a few example paintings, drawings, whatever it is that artist does in their style for about a week in GCSE. But in BTEC, it is elongated for like 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks. The deadline changes depending on how big or small the brief is, and it can get a bit complicated. So with BTEC, you really need to know how to stay on task. But yeah, so that's one of the reasons. And then you have, so with our briefs in college, like I said, they're quite long. And my first year, it started off quite easy, but obviously as you go on, you sometimes have to juggle more than one brief. So at points where we had to juggle more than one brief, that's when it gets a bit more overwhelming, as work is starting to get piled up on top of you, and you kind of need to know how to balance your time between each brief. What brief is due first, what brief is due second, what brief contains more what brief is more time consuming, and what brief is a bit more relaxed. And you kind of need to know how to deal with that during college. And there's also another thing about staying on time. My college in particular, was very strict about staying on time. Well, very strict about staying on time, because if you was late like a few times, apparently you get kicked off the course. But I've had so many friends who are late to class in the morning, and I've always been on time. I've always been very punctual, and my attendance has always been quite high in college. So I never had anything to worry about, really. I might come slightly late if it was to do with coming after lunch, because we would get independent study. And independent study for my first year, we could choose whether we wanted to stay in class or leave, and majority of the people basically left and we didn't come back until 2 hours later, which was allowed. But the second year we got a different principal of the college, and that meant that she was a lot more stricter with us, meaning that when we had independent study we had to stay inside the class and do our work. Independent study, for those who don't know, in college is when, basically, is in the name, independent study, you can go back and focus on maybe a project of yours that is separate to the one that you're currently doing in class. If you're behind on something, that's when you use that time wisely to do a bit more work. That's what independent study is about. Or you can just continue with the work you was doing before independent study actually started. So that's what independent study is, for those of you who do not know. Yeah, when I was saying about people being late, you know, a lot of my friends have been late to school before, college before, and they never got kicked out. It's just something they tell you to scare you, but I do recommend actually just coming in on time, because they do brief you in the beginning of class more or less every single morning about what's going to happen throughout the day. Or sometimes if you are currently doing an elongated brief, you just going and start your work, and I recommend getting in as early as possible, because if it's a really long brief, you're going to need as much time as possible, because when that deadline is up, it's up. You can take your work home and finish it. I always used to take my work home and do it at home and finish it when I could. But majority of the time you have more of the tools and equipment to use within the art studio. So that's why it's best to actually get in on time, so you are able to do majority of your work. And I've had so many friends leave it last minute, leave it 2 days before due in, when we had 6 weeks to do it, and then they're rushing and then doing all-nighters, which isn't healthy at all. I mean, what I'm doing isn't necessarily healthy, but at least I'm more relaxed and calm about it, to a point where I'm not staying up so late that it makes me sleep deprived the next day. I don't think I've ever really been sleep deprived before. So yeah, that is another thing. Also, for those of you who don't know anything about what briefs are basically like, how could I put this? Assignments. Briefs are assignments, but my college calls them briefs. And within that assignment, you'll get like a paper that tells you, no, not a paper, but like a small booklet, and it gives you the grades of what you get. So in college, instead of having A plus and or you got a 9 or something, it's merit, it's pass, merit, and distinction. You can have a high pass, a low pass, a high merit, a low merit, a high distinction, and a low distinction. And the criteria, it tells you within what you have to do for this brief. And in order to complete certain steps, the criteria of getting a pass, low pass, high pass, a merit, low merit, high merit, and a distinction, low distinction, high distinction. And it gives you certain tasks that you have to complete, and it describes it very descriptively. In fact, let me see if I can get a brief. Oh, sorry, I actually went rummaging for a good 10 minutes. But this is what a brief looks like. So it has, where's the crayon? It has the tasks. It explains basically what you have to do here. It gives you a date of when it's due and all that other stuff. Yep. And then it just tells you inside what else you basically need to do. So yeah, this is what a brief looks like. Yeah, that is what a brief looks like. And that's also why it takes so long to do. Because what you have to do in a brief, you are given a theme and a title of the task that you have to do. It explains the task and scenario, because sometimes there is a scenario, so it also explains the scenario for you. Sometimes it will give you a few artists that they will mention that you can go and look up. most of the time you have to do that yourself, and you have to look up certain artists that do a certain type of theme of artwork, whether it's painting, charcoal, blah, 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 blah. And on top of that, has to be a certain type of thing like realism, abstract, you know, fictional, all that kind of stuff. And then once you've done that, so you found like you need at least 3 artists, sometimes 2, but I always do 3 just for the extra, you know, if it gets me extra marks, then I do 3. And you have to go into quite a bit of detail about their art, explaining their art, what their art means, and how you interpret their art, and also why you feel that you can use this kind of artist as inspiration for your theme. And this is the thing, so you're given a theme with the brief, but you have to take a theme from that brief as well and make it into your own. And that's how everyone's artwork is very different from one another, because this brief is called Protest and Survive. And my theme for Protest and Survive, when I focused on animal endangerment. Yes, endangerment. So, you know, that humans cause a lot of destruction in the world, and it has an effect on animals and their habitats. Some other people did things to do with political things. Some people in my class did it more to do with racial terms and all these other things. So that's how everyone's artwork is different from another. Now, with that saying, you have to kind of go into a bit of mental research for yourself to why you are doing this kind of brief. And you have to write about it. You have to write about everything that you're doing, and that's very key when it comes to art. Now, a lot of people think art is easy when it really isn't. And people always ask me, my friends who I went to school with, who obviously have gone on to either my school sixth form or a different college, who are not doing art or any creative activity, are always asking me, why are your assignments so long? And I always have to explain it to them that, you know, it's not just drawing, it's not just painting, it's not just art. There's a lot of writing that is included in art, which seems a bit weird, I know, but you have to literally write about every single detail about what you're doing, why you're doing, and especially when you're doing experiments, because you have to do experiments leading up to a final design, final painting, whatever it is you're doing. There has to be a final something, and with that final something, you have to kind of show the growth from the artists that you picked, the experiments that you did based off the artists, then taking those experiments and using those experiments to create your own kind of art that is influenced by the artist, but it's not like a representation of the artist's work, because it still has to represent you and your theme and the reason for why you are doing that artwork. And then you have to go into the conclusion to explain all of that, the whole journey that you did, even all of the annotations that you did for each part, which is doing work based off the artist, then taking inspiration from the artist and then intertwining it with your own art, and then choosing for different examples of finalizing ideas, and then you can sketch those ideas out or whatever. You have to write about them and then create your final piece. You have to also write a whole conclusion about that. And on top of that, every single time you do a piece of artwork, if it's an experiment or something that is one of the ideas that you're doing for your final piece, you have to write about what you would do if this was to be your final piece, or what you would do better. And even with your final artwork, you always have to include what you would do if you had more time, or what you would change about your artwork. So there is definitely a lot that goes into it, and you have to do intense research sometimes about the subject that you're doing. Because I remember for one of my briefs for the first year, I did the overall theme was identity, and within that theme I decided to do tribal tattoos. And the reason I did tribal tattoos is because tribal tattoos with Aztec warriors and other things and all of that stuff, tribal tattoos are part of people's identity. Even now in modern day life, tattoos are part of people's identity. So that's why I decided to do it, because I am also into tattoos and I want to get a tattoo one day as well. So I was like, well, this is something that's interesting. But then I had to do my research on certain type of tribal tattoos, and then the type what they used to do before ink pens and stuff like that were created, and the stick thing that they used to do. And I had to do a lot of research. Then I had my teacher told me to do other things, and that is actually another subject we should get onto. But yeah, briefs are quite long, and that's why I always have to explain to my friends who aren't doing an art course. All my friends in college have the same amount of time in briefs because they're either doing media, dance, drama, or anything else that is basically creative. My college was basically like a creative art college for the most part. So yeah, that is also another reason. That was good. Guys, I recommend drinking peppermint tea. It is literally the best. I love it so much. It's healthy, it's good for you, it debloats you, and it's delicious to drink. But yes, guys, let's now move on to the other subject. Teachers. Oh my goodness. Teachers. Okay, so I've always kind of had issues with teachers when it comes to my artwork. That's even started from secondary school. I've always, like you guys know, I'm different. I've always been different, and I didn't necessarily fully embrace that until I reached college. But with my art, I was always confident and different with that, even in secondary school. That was one thing you couldn't change about me. And for a while, my teachers did praise me until I got a different kind of teacher who just insulted my work, insulted me, even when I was trying to explain to this teacher how I actually quite like the technique of my work, and she called it awful. And that's just one thing you don't necessarily say to an artist in front of them about their work, especially when they're trying to show you that they're trying to convince you that this is good and the reason for that is good. But no, you get cut off. And the whole class was quite shocked about it as well. But let's talk about college, because this is the subject we're talking about. Teachers of college, they will always find ways to try and change your idea or your work if they don't think it's a good idea. If your initial idea for a certain brief or project, they will sometimes try and change it, or sometimes they will encourage it. It depends, but the term how art is freedom of expression, whether that's in music or dancing or physical art. It's a freedom of expression. When you get into college, that meaning goes out of the teachers' heads instantly. I know we have to stick to a certain type of brief, but at the end of the day, when you choose a certain theme, I would always say to you guys, stick to it. Even if your teacher says, oh, you should do this instead, stick to your idea, because then you're just doing what the teacher wants you to do. And the thing about college is it's meant to be more freeing, where it's a bit more independent and you're able to choose your type of theme and what you want to do. If you let the teachers take over your artwork, it's not going to end up being what you want it to be, and then you're going to end up being unhappy about your artwork. Trust me on this, I know what I am talking about. So I do definitely recommend, don't let them take over your art. They can help you, but don't let them change your mind or ideas. If you want to change your mind and you want to change your ideas, then you do so. But don't answer to the teacher's ideas. Sometimes the teacher's ideas are quite helpful, and they do help quite a lot. I will say that, because both the teachers I had for the years that I spent in college, which was 2, they did help with my artwork, and they didn't try to change it. But then there were other times that they did, and I had to go through a whole 360, because I wasn't going to let them change my idea. But I, for some reason, always like to compromise, and that's one thing I didn't have backbone about, even though as much as I was confident and all that, when it came to teachers necessarily telling me what I should do, you know, you think teachers are always right about everything, but they're not always right about everything, and that's what you need to realise. And near to the end of this year, before quarantine had hit, I had a bit more backbone in me and stood up for myself a bit more about the artwork that I'm doing, because at the end of the day, you can't rule what I am creating. This art is symbolic for a certain reason, and if you try and change it, it's not going to be symbolic to the reason to why I am painting this drawing. So that is why you guys need to kind of have a bit of backbone if you're thinking about going into art and doing an art course, whether it's an A-level B-Tech. You need to stand your ground sometimes with the artwork that you're doing, and especially when you explain it to a teacher, because the teacher will always come round to you and ask what you're doing, see how far your progress is going. Even though in college you are being more independent about your artwork, they will still check up on you and see how far you've gotten to make sure you're not like on your phone or whatever. So keep that in mind. But yeah, don't let them take over your ideas. Don't let them change your ideas. Like I said, for my tattoo, you know, brief that I was doing, identity, my teacher told me to do told me to try and look into tribal masks, because tribal masks have an impact in tribal tattoos as well. But then I had to do a whole 360, research all the stuff about tribal masks just to talk about tribal tattoos, when a mask is not even something that's embedded into your skin. So there's pros and cons to the teachers in in college, but they do tend to be quite controlling sometimes when it comes to your work. Near to the end of this year, I was doing a painting, and the painting was a painting of a woman sitting in front of a mirror, and she's a princess, but she wasn't doing eloquent. She wasn't being very graceful, let's just say. I can't find the right word. Eloquent, or whatever the word is. Because she was smoking. You know, she had tattoos on her body. But in the mirror, you can see her reflection, and it shows that she's actually like a she-devil. And to the reasons why she is doing unprincessy things, what I could say. I'll put up a picture of if I can find a picture of it. So yeah, that is what the art is about. And when I literally had just started it, this was for my final piece, by the way. I not long had finished this. This was for my final piece, and I had just started painting the skin. I had not long just finished outlining the picture with a light pencil, and we also had to make the canvases ourselves. So after all that, I started to paint, and the color was a bit more, you know, how could I put this? The person who I was painting had more of a white complexion, was more peachy looking, slightly tanned, but I was going for more of a peach skin tone. As I wanted, well, I'm not necessarily stepping outside my comfort zone, because I have drawn other people other than my own race, which is black, obviously, but I wanted to paint, you know, I wanted to paint someone that was more on the peach, light skin tone side of the spectrum in skin tones. And my teacher comes up to me and he says, what color, he's American, he's like, what color is that? And I'm like, it's beige, I don't know. And he's like, yeah, but what colour is it? And I said, I don't know, what colour do you think it is? It's a skin tone. And he was like, yeah, but it seems it's very stereotypical Barbie looking. Mind you, I did not finish. I only just started this painting, meaning I still had to go quite deep into mixing my paints before I got the correct colour. Sometimes you need to start off with a base layer, and then you continue to mix and blend to make it into the skin tone color that you want. It doesn't, you know, go completely you know, in one line. You have to find the color you want as you're painting. And then he brought me aside and took me to his desk and started to show me artists of African American people and paintings of African American people. And he said, you know, you could start in drawing this and doing this if you wanted to. And, you know, I know that you have just started your painting, but at the moment, I feel like, you know, these artists who are, you know, have painted like, those paintings with black people who are quite dark, or you can only see their teeth in their eyes. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, and he's like, you know, he was basically telling me he probably felt insulted for the fact, because my teacher is white, he probably felt insulted for the fact that I was painting a white person but the skin color wasn't correct. Even though I just started painting and I still had to mix the paint before I could get it to the right texture. I was just starting out. I didn't even get much done. I just started painting that day, and the man was trying to tell me I should paint someone black instead of painting someone white. That was basically what he was saying, because the skin tone wasn't right and it was too Barbie looking. And you know how Barbie has like a sun-kissed glow, like peachy color about her? That's what he was basically saying, even though I had just started my painting. And he didn't even give me a chance. That's what I hate about art teachers. They never give you a chance to just continue painting. They always like to jump to conclusions and jump in front of you and jump ahead of the gun when you've just started doing a piece of artwork. And they will criticize the artwork and tell you what you should do differently, even though I barely got anything on the paper anyway. I could do a dot and they would tell me it's wrong. So anyway, going back to the story, he was like, yeah, you gotta, I think maybe basically you could try and do one of these artists. And I said, I really do appreciate these artworks. I did actually write down one artist because I thought her art was quite cool. So I wrote down an artist, but I didn't think I wasn't going to do it for my final piece. And I also did it to shut him up, because sometimes that's what you gotta do. And I said to him, I was like, sir, we can call our teachers by their first names in college, by the way, but for this video, I'm going to keep his name, you know. No one needs to know his name. So I said, sir, I see what you're trying to say here, but I literally have just started the painting. And he said, exactly, then that's why you can start again. Now I took a bit of offense to that, because I'm like, okay, wow, so you can see I've just started it, but you want me to change it already just because I just started painting a skin tone that's like yours, but not like yours because it's tanned and I haven't finished yet. That's what he was, I swear to God, he was offended. And the thing is, this teacher I'm talking about is a good teacher. And I'm not trying to give you a bad impression of all art teachers, but I'm pretty sure most people in college and in schools have had issues with teachers in art. I've heard so many stories about an art teacher disrespecting them in one way or another about their artwork or whatever they were drawing, and it's happened to me more than once. So I said to him, listen, sir, I've just started my painting, and, you know, I am trying to step out of my comfort zone here because I've drawn black people all my life. I've drawn my parents, I draw people I know, I draw my family. What I'm trying to do right now is step outside my comfort zone and draw someone who doesn't look like me. So, yeah, thank you. And then I left. I said, thank you. And then he's like, yeah, I understand. You know, he said, you don't have to do what I'm telling you to do. But he still brought it up anyway. So why are you telling me this if it's something I don't have to do? It's something to put in my head so you magically think I'm just going to change my painting all of a sudden because you told me to. I don't think so. I'm sorry. At that point in my life, I had had enough of teachers trying to tell me what I should and should not draw when it is basically my decision. And they told us that in the beginning of the lesson. Yet still they want to tell us to change the painting even though you just said we can do whatever we want. So which is it? So another thing, art teachers are very contradicting, and it can get really annoying. Me and my classmates have always spoken about this before in class. You know, the thing is, our teacher is a good teacher. Both teachers that we have had have been really good at helping us with certain ideas, especially if we were stuck on anything, but they can get a bit controlling. So if you are looking to go into an art course in college or even in university, just be aware of the teachers, because sometimes they do like to take control of your artwork a bit too much, especially when it's meant to be your own idea and not a class activity. So as much as they say, this is an independent thing and you're being more independent and your work is more about what you want to do and it's more about freedom of expression and you don't have to listen to what I have to say, they're still going to try and drill it into your head about what they want you to do instead of what you want to do for your own art. So that is another thing with college, which, art teachers definitely do contradict themselves more than I can even count. They are helpful, and I'm not trying to say all art teachers are bad, but they can be controlling when it comes to your art. When they don't like something, they want you to change it, and that's not necessarily what I'm rooting for here. Art is freedom of expression. You're meant to express yourself in any way you can, whatever form you're doing, whatever theme that you're presenting to people. However you want other people to interpret your art, you do so. Don't let whatever your teacher says stop you from producing your own art, because I'm telling you now, it's just going to ruin everything. You're just going to give up and not want to do anything else because this teacher is telling you basically you should do this instead of this because this idea is better than this idea. Hey guys, I also just wanted to say that art is also, art in college is about pushing your limits and pushing your boundaries and exploring more different types of art and how far you can go with it. So what I'm trying to say is the teachers are there to encourage you to step outside your comfort zone, but don't let them change everything about your art. They are there to help you explore different things about art, but don't let them step you outside your comfort zone. Another thing with art is that art courses in college, our exams are very long and time consuming, and you need to do a lot of, you're given like 6 to 7 weeks of research, because the kinds of exams that we are given in the first year and second year, you're given 2 exams. One is a written exam and one is a practical exam. Now, the thing about this is in GCSEs, I thought that 10-hour exams were long, because in GCSE we split into 2 days for our final exam, where we draw our final piece, which is that thing over there on the wall that I've probably shown you before. The half thing of me. I'll take a picture and I'll put it here. But yeah, so that was my final piece. And that was a 10-hour exam. So we had 2 whole days to do that. Written exams and practical exams are far more worse. For my first year, we had a written exam that lasted 3.5 hours on a computer with no breaks. Let that sink in. We had to stare at a computer for 3.5 hours while typing about a certain artist, a certain theme, their artwork, how it conveys a certain message about the theme that we're talking about, and what we personally think of the art and why it's blah, 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 blah. And we had to do all this research about it for 3.5 hours sitting at a computer with no break. That we thought was bad. Then we had our practical exam. This is all in the first year, by the way, and I think we had to do our practical exam for about 2 weeks or something, come up with a theme, a few artists to take inspiration from, obviously a whole load of annotations, experiments, and a final piece, health and safety, and all that other nonsense that you have to do, but it's a bit more in detail because it's an end of year project. Basically, that is the end of year project is what we do for our practical exam. That's what we did last year. This year, Lord God Jesus Christ, sorry, but we had a written exam, It was a 25-hour exam. Yes, you heard me correctly, a 25-hour written exam for art. So that's 2 weeks and a half of writing. We had a few weeks of research and preparation. Then we had to go in. They gave us our brief. We already knew what we was writing about. It was long. It was quite relaxing though. I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't as intense as I thought it was going to be. However, you get bored of sitting on a computer every single day for 2 weeks and a half, basically writing up about this project that you're doing, that you have to create designs for and make a certain product that will promote a certain sort of charity that will get young people involved about this, and then also do designs and annotations, and then you have to also write about the company that you're doing this for, even though it tells you about the company anyway, and all that other stuff, and that takes 2 weeks and a half to do. Now, I think maybe my class got off lucky this year, because we was actually, before quarantine, we was preparing to do a 45-minute hour exam, which is 4 hours and 4 weeks and a half, and that would be our practical exam. But obviously quarantine came, and the lockdown came, and that meant we had to work from home, meaning we wouldn't be able to do our 45 practical hour exam, because it's something we have to do in class, because we have art studios, we have tools and equipment. So we probably got let off lucky for that. Unfortunately though, that means that they have to kind of add up more of our scores marks based off what we have done in quarantine and our last exam, and then on top of that we had to what we did last year, and that's going to be like our grade. So we would have probably gotten a higher grade if we did our exam. So that's the cons basically to us not doing our 45-hour exam, because we won't be able to maybe get higher marks as we would want to, because we would have so much more marks if we did this. And that is actually it was going to be showing for our end of year piece as well. So we wouldn't get to do that either, which is quite sad. But you win some, you lose some. I guess, I'm not complaining that we didn't do our 45-hour exam, because at the end of the day, that is energy, and I'm telling you now, we probably get stressed out halfway through it. I mean, I may not have, but, what can you do? But yes, guys, I think that's all for today, because I've got to edit this video and then upload it, and this mask is digging into my skin underneath this cap, and I want to take it off because it's starting to get really uncomfortable. But if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments, and let me know if you want me to keep doing these kind of videos every so often. I won't do them too often, but if you want me to do maybe a few story times about art, if you want me to include art next time, please let me know down in the comments below, because this is something new that I'm doing, and I'm not necessarily sure if you want me to create this kind of stuff into a series, if you want me to do tips on college and stuff like that, or talk about college life a bit more, because that is one thing I did want to touch on in this video, but I didn't get the time to, because it's so late. It is now 16 minutes past 4 in the morning, so I don't think I want to make this video any longer than it needs to be. But I do hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you like this sort of stuff and you want me to do more, if you want me to do tips, pet peeves, whatever it is, where I basically sit down and talk to the camera about art for how many minutes it is of your day, and you can listen to it if you want. If you want art involved in it as well, I can maybe involve a few like speed drawings or whatever. But I kind of like this. It's quite relaxing not to draw all the time and just talk about art experiences and stuff like that and college life, since I've basically finished now. But yes, that is all for today, guys. So if you like this video, comment down what you thought of this video, and subscribe if you like, and check out my channel to see what else what else is in store on my channel, because I definitely do have a lot of different types of playlists for different types of things, and I hope my art can be inclusive for a lot of people. So yes guys, that is about it for this video. I'm going to go now. This has been Wolf with a Pencil, and she's howling at the moon, and she is out. Peace. Bye.